have not been your friend all these years for nothing, Georgia. I know what you're like. You're utterly incapable of keeping secrets if you think they'll make for interesting stories.
This was, of course, completely the wrong thing to say to Georgia Byron. Given she had been friends with Georgia for so long, Percy really should have known that herself. So it's a secret now, is it? That sounds awfully suspicious to me, Percy. What could you be saying, I wonder?
What does it matter? You never let me read your messages to your brother. Why should I let you read mine to my boyfriend? That is because my messages to my dear brother, half-brother, let me remind you, are about family concerns. Your messages, however...
Sorry, this music is a little extra. Again. Soon this menu is going to be like my best friend. Your messages, however, are of a more salacious cast, correct?
Salacious?
Oh, salacious? Salacious, I think it is. Oh, well. Like matters of the physical.
Just stop it. Why must you try to make my relationship sound so sordid?
It is sordid, though, isn't it? Why else would a man and a woman be calling and texting each other at all hours?
Don't be so crass. Harry would never be so presumptuous. He's sweet and sensitive. He writes me poetry, Georgia.
Poetry! And it is these men, the ones so narcissistic, they fancy themselves poets, who are the very worst.
Don't say those kinds of things about Harry. He's been having a rough time lately and has been feeling a little down. That is why he has been calling and texting me so much lately.
He must have been more than a little down, given how very often he keeps sending you messages. Your phone was beeping so much on the bus, I couldn't focus on my book. Of course, Georgia would be able to read on the bus. She was the kind of person who didn't get travel sick. She was just too self-assured to suffer from such an affliction.
We have a very strong bond, that's all. Harry tells me everything. That is how close we are. I know from the bottom of my heart that Harry is the one for me. My other self, my platonic egg, my soulmate, if you will.
Georgia sighed. She looked distinctly peeved, more exhausted than irate. For a smart girl, Percy, you would be awfully stupid sometimes.
What do you mean?
You're so idealistic. It's like you don't even live in the real world. Despite your declarations that Harry is your soulmate, you've never even met him in real life. For all you know, he could be a serial rapist.
Don't say such horrid things. How can you even make that accusation? And so boldly, too. You don't know anything about him.
And neither do you. Not really.
I know enough. I am not a child, Georgia.
No, you are not. But between the two of us, who has the most experience with the opposite sex?
Well...
Exactly. And can't you see the warning signs?
Warning signs? What warning signs?
The guy keeps threatening to kill himself. Don't you think that's just a tiny bit manipulative? Just a tad?
It isn't manipulative.
Oh my goodness. Alright. Folks who are watching this, if your partner constantly threatens you with suicide, that's not a reason to stay. If they say that if you break up with them, they're gonna kill themselves, that is not your responsibility. That is not on you. That is on them. If you seriously think they need help, get out of there and call the authorities. It is not your job to make sure they don't die. Do not stay in a relationship because they say they're gonna kill themselves. Get out and call for help for that person if you genuinely think they're actually gonna go through with it. Thank you. That was your PSA from Gamer Nom-Nom.
It isn't manipulative. He's just a very emotional person. He feels things deeply, like I do. We're a perfect match.
Well, if he's as foolish as you are, perhaps that is true. Samantha watched the exchange between the two girls, occasionally broken by beeping from Percy's phone as another message from the mysterious Harry was beamed through the stratosphere. She did not particularly want to get involved in matters of adolescent romance. She had enough worries of her own to deal with, without prying into anybody else's. Roberta, however, did not seem to share Samantha's reservations. She was looking more and more impatiently by the second, hands on her hips, foot tapping against the ground. Finally, it seemed she could take it no longer because she snapped. Hey, I'm losing her voice. I thought we had work to do. Can we save all this chatter for a more appropriate time? Oh! Percy jumped, eyes wide. Had she forgotten where she was? Hurriedly, she opened her phone and finished her latest text, then sent it flying into the ether with a decisive click of a button. Then, once more, with a snap, she set her fancy phone and slid it back into her bag.
I'm sorry, I got a little distracted.
I can see that much.
Sorry.
Oops. Apparently scrolling can take me back in time. I think the same thing happened with Blackberry Honey. Samantha turned her head, short hair fluttering in the cold breeze as she searched for the rest of her class. Hopefully they hadn't fallen too behind. Excuse me. But Samantha looked to the left. She looked to the right. She turned about in a neat 360-degree circle, inspecting her surroundings. But there was nobody else there. Their fellow classmates had vanished into thin air, swallowed by the hills and valleys of the sprawling countryside. Did that mean they had been left behind? Samantha bit her lower lip. The color bled from her face until her cheeks became ashen. Samantha had always loved the countryside. Excuse me. She had pleasant memories of living in the South, in the small village of Ottery St. Mary, until the day her mother had decided to send her to an all-girls boarding school out in the middle of London. Visual novels are a heck on the voice, no matter how good or bad they are. Yeah, this is very true. This is why I like other visual novels where usually it's like it's just the main character and like narration dialogues are not voiced, but then all the other side characters and stuff, they have voice actors. Those are nice because then I only have to read a certain amount of text. But with these past two girl visual novels, nothing's been voiced, so I've had to do all of it. So it's like But yeah, I love them so much. I guess I'm a sucker for punishment. This is just, it's so fun to read these and like get into it and get so in depth in the story. I would do that sometimes. I would just read novels out loud to myself just because it helps me kind of process it a little better. I don't do it all the time, obviously, but just sometimes I'm like, wait, what was that paragraph I just read? I don't understand. So I'll read it out loud and then be like, oh, okay, yeah, now I got it. But just as much as Samantha had loved growing up in the countryside, she knew well how dangerous it could be. You have the fun of making them have the voice you vision them having. To an extent. I try my best, but sometimes I don't get my voice across the way I want to. And I'm just like, whatever. I'm just going to do my best. But yeah, it's definitely fun being like, all right, let me actually think about what kind of voice this person's going to have rather than just reading it. Samantha could still remember that unforgiving night she had spent alone, out amongst the fields, curled up in a corner of a disused cowshed. She had quarreled with her older sister, and the argument had escalated. Foul names had been exchanged, hair had been pulled, and arms had been scratched. Fearful that her mother would punish her for her misconduct, Samantha had later fled. She ran out into the surrounding fields even though the darkness was beginning to close in. She had shivered fitfully and fallen in and out of hazy, feverish dreams, curled up in the corner of that dilapidated cowshed with a hole in the roof. That's all you can do. Your best is always the best. That is true. That is very true. When the morning broke, she had been so frozen through with cold she had been unable to stand. If she hadn't been discovered by a passing rambler, Samantha feared to think what might have happened to her. She could have died. And so was that. The moment Samantha realized they were stranded, she started to do what she did best. Panic. You guys? What is it? I don't know if you've realized it yet, but, we're the only ones here. Roberta and Georgia instantly stopped arguing. Both of them turned to look at the other, eyes slightly wider than usual. Like Samantha, they turned to survey their surroundings. The horizon was endless, stretching out in an unbroken expanse of trees and hills, but there were no people, not for miles around. Everyone had vanished like ghosts, visions, apparitions, as though they had never been there at all. Roberta swallowed, hard, her lashes trembling. Georgia looked unusually abashed, her gaze dropping down to her shoes, which was a first. Samantha had never seen Georgia look ashamed before, not even when she sauntered into class 20 minutes late. Was it Sam's overactive imagination, or was the evening already beginning to descend? Her own shadow seemed to stretch out behind her, growing even longer, thinner, and more sinister by the second. I can't believe it. We actually need to use your phone. It's out of power. This is like something from a bad horror movie.
I'm sorry.
Percy looked down at the floor, shamefaced, scuffing the ground with the tip of her trainer.
If I had known we were going to get lost, I wouldn't have spoken with Harry so much on the bus.
Okay, I think my mouse is dying because sometimes it's just randomly disconnecting. Which is not great. I need it. Ew, there's gunk on my mouse. Excuse you. Must have eaten something at one point and got it dirty. Whoops. Oops. Hello. Not what I meant to do. Scroll to the present. Thank you. Curse that, Harry. How you torment me, even in your absence. If you weren't so enamored with that stupid, simpering fop, we wouldn't be in this situation. We'd be able to call for help, and we wouldn't have to wait around in the godforsaken countryside, getting colder and colder with every second. Frick! With the sudden exclamation, Georgia spun about and kicked a nearby tree, hard. Samantha watched from a safe distance, impressed and ever so slightly terrified. She had no doubt that, if that kick had come into contact with her, a few of her ribs would be broken right now.
Hey!
But Percy was a braver person than Samantha, at least when the topic of her true love came up.
Don't blame Harry for this. He isn't stupid or simpering. I love him.
Maybe you do right now, but that will wear off in time. It always does.
That's such a cynical way of looking at things. Just because you feel that way, it doesn't mean I do.
You don't want to hear the truth? I'm sorry.
True love does exist, and you'll find your Prince Charming out there someday. And while I'm at it, do you want me to confirm the existence of Santa and the Easter Bunny too?
Oh my gosh, this girl. She's so much.
It's all well and good acting so high and mighty, but I don't see you doing anything to help us.
That's right. If you're so smart, Georgia, why don't you try to fix everything? Where's your phone?
I dropped it in this...
wrong voice. I dropped it in the swimming pool last Saturday. It's totally dead. Why did you even take your phone to the pool with you? I'm forgetting Roberta's voice. Why did you even take your phone to the pool with you? Georgia shrugged. I don't know. Show off the other girls in the swimming team, I guess. It was the latest model.
And how much did that cost you?
I don't want to say. Just thinking about it makes me want to cry. Percy rolled her eyes.
And you say I can be stupid sometimes. How are you even able to afford all the expensive things you break and lose? Your family isn't that rich.
We're not, but you could get pretty far in life when you're literally a lady. Lady Byron. Sounds kind of cool, huh? Like a mistress in a gothic novel. It makes me feel like I should be living out in the wild moors in a mansion, a mad wife in the attic, and a bunch of deformed servants to do with as I will. If there was one thing Georgia was proud of, above all else, it was that title. Samantha had heard rumors that whenever Georgia went into Starbucks, she always stipulated that the barista had to write Lady Byron on her cup. Well, given that she was a lady in name only, with no money at all, she probably had to get her kicks where she could. And what about you two? Do you have your phones?
I didn't bring it with me. I forgot.
Well, I can't say I'm that surprised, since you managed to forget to bring half your hair with you. My hopes were on high. Samantha brought a hand to her hair, frowning. Did it really look that bad? No, precious, you look adorable. Keep being you. And what about you, Bobby? You're sensible, right? You remembered to bring your phone, didn't you? Of course I remembered. Unlike Sam, I'm not so scatterbrained that I'd leave it at home. And I wasn't clumsy enough to drop it in the swimming pool either. Oh, good job, Bobby. I could almost kiss you. Please don't. And don't call me Bobby like we're friends either. Madame, you wound me. And yet, despite her protestations of the most horrible heartbreak, Georgia seemed to recover from being rebuffed incredibly quick. Is Bob alright then? Even worse. With a long-suffering sigh, Roberta drew her phone out of her pocket. It was not quite as sleek or shiny as Percy's. It was undoubtedly less expansive than Georgia's had been. Alright, rip. But it was more than capable of getting the job done. It's a good thing one of us has a functioning phone. You better thank me for this, Georgia. Not like I'm doing it for you or anything. Hey, are you trying to guilt trip me? Maybe. You deserve to feel guilty every once in a while. It'll work wonders for that ego of yours. You're even more egotistical than I, Bobby. You just hide it better behind that old lady facade of yours. Old lady? That's right. You're just like Lillian. You're both so stuffy. Arrogant, too. I am nothing like Lillian. You are. What was it the pair of you said when you were running to be on the student council? Hi, David Casado. What's up? That you're going to do your best to represent the student body, stand up for us when we were being unfairly persecuted. You wanted to keep a bear in your room, you cretin. Of course we were going to refuse. But the student handbook only specified we weren't allowed to keep cats or dogs. It didn't say anything about bears. I'm just trying to imagine her trying to walk down school hallways with the freaking bear. Maybe it could have been like a cub, but they're just saying bear. So I'm thinking like a massive bear just trying down the hallway, and she goes, oh, don't mind me. I'm just going to my room with my pet bear. Nothing to see here. And it's like, That's because we assumed, wrongly it seems, that nobody would be stupid enough to assume those rules did not logically extend to bears. My, somebody's touchy. I am touchy because I am trying to concentrate, and your antagonism is not helping. Concentrate? How hard can it be to find a phone number? You did save Miss Pope's number into your phone, didn't you? Of course I did. I simply some trouble because you are distracting me. Then hand your phone over here. I'll call her for you. Oh no, they're gonna break the phone, aren't they? It's gonna be great. What? Hey, wait, what are you doing? But Roberta's cries fell on deaf ears. Swooping in like a bat, her black hair tumbling about her shoulders, Georgia fished Roberta's phone out of her hands in a matter of milliseconds. Oh, now this is interesting. Georgia giggled, Roberta's phone secure in one hand. Of course, as everybody knows, the mobile phone is one of the most precious possessions a person can have in the 21st century. No longer are phones mere tools used to contact others. They are far, far more than that. They are more like lifelines, the very extension of their own owner's psyche, part of their soul. And a very personal part of Roberta's soul filled with her most important private memories had suddenly been wrenched right out of her hands. Naturally, Roberta was upset about this. I'm going to be honest, I don't understand this game. It's okay. It's just a visual novel surrounding, I'm assuming, high school girls or maybe middle school girls. I don't know. I'm gonna say high school. Teenage girls just being teenage girls. Yeah, basically. But I love to hear you speak in English. Oh my word. I think I sound awful. I'm probably offending real English people. I just love how it like kind of fits her but really doesn't. And especially when Georgia's like, you're such an old lady. I'm like, I picked the perfect voice for Roberta. Naturally, Roberta was upset about this. In fact, upset was an understatement. I learned a bit. Oh, is English not your first language, David? In fact, upset was an understatement. She was almost livid with rage. Georgia, give that back. That's personal. Oh, you're from Spain? Oh, that's cool. Well, hi. Welcome to my stream. Personal, huh? I wonder. Just how many personal things are stored in here? Oh no, this is interesting. Who is Edmund, and why have you sent each other so many texts? Don't just read. I'm losing her voice. Don't just read through my stuff like that. Give that back. Georgia, this really is too much. You shouldn't just steal a girl's phone like that. But why? Bobby deserves it. It's 'cause she's always so uptight. I am uptight because I have to spend time with you. You always try to provoke me. Only because I always get a reaction. You must not be very smart, Bobby, if you don't even know that. Don't try to blame this on me. This is your fault. Can't you two set your differences aside for once? We need that phone. It's the only way we can call for help. Oh, are you getting worried, Sam? I bet you wish Lily were here to hold your hand, right? Lillian has nothing to do with this. I don't want to talk about it. Because she hung you out to dry, huh? That's like she did with Percy. For all she spoke about caring for her fellow classmates, she didn't really make much of an effort to fulfill her promises. This has nothing to do with Lillian or Persephone or the student council. Give me my phone back right now. What if I don't want to give it back? What if I don't want to freeze to death in the middle of the countryside? Hand it over. Come on, Georgia. Nope, that's not her voice. Come on, Georgia. This is childish, even for you. I don't want to be wandering around here when it gets dark. It's more dangerous out here than you may think. Don't act so serious, you guys. I'll give it back soon. First, though, Bobby, you have to apologize. Apologize? For what? For being such a sycophant? What? What is sycophant? I don't know. Who makes promises but never keeps them. Then maybe I'll think about it. You really are impossible. Of all the nerve. Really? I think you're the one being impossible, Bobby. Stop calling me Bobby. My name is not Bobby. Now give my phone back right now. Roberta reached forwards, trying to snatch her phone from Georgia's hand. It's gonna break. This phone's gonna break and they're gonna be stranded. Georgia slipped backwards, trying to hold the phone out of Roberta's reach. A move doomed to failure, really, given Georgia was quite a bit shorter than Roberta was. Roberta's hand collided with Georgia's. If they had been actors in a movie, that moment of impact would have been shot in a close-up, in slow motion. No! Roberta could only watch, eyes wide with horror, as her phone flew out of Georgia's grasp, making an elegant arc in the air. Percy moved forwards, attempting to catch it before it hit the ground, but it was too late. Percy had always been dreadful at sports. That was the main reason why she had been bullied so terribly in her PE class. She couldn't have caught a ball to save her life. And she certainly could not have caught that phone either, even if it could potentially have saved the lives of 4 people. The phone hit the floor hard, but not with a thud, as one might have expected. Instead, it landed with an unpleasant squelch. It was a similar kind of sound that was made when shoes sunk into mud. All 4 girls looked Nom-Nom. Focus. All 4 girls looked down at the ground, in almost perfect unison. There lay Roberta's phone, the extension of Roberta's soul, their final link back to the civilization, the only sign of the 21st century for miles around. It was resting neatly, almost as though it had been preordained by some greater being, right in the center of a large, dark brown cow pet. That line sums it all up. Oh, but I hate saying that word. Oh, for frick's sake. Roberta was kneeling down on the ground, trying to clean the manure off her phone by wiping against the grass. She had been doing so for the last 10 minutes, but the dirt didn't seem to be shifting. Perhaps if Roberta had not been holding her phone pinched between her thumb and forefinger as though it was something diseased, the process would have been a lot quicker. But who wanted to touch manure? Roberta certainly didn't.
Do you think this is going to work?
I have no idea. This is somewhat beyond my area of expertise. I'm losing her voice. Whatever. I'm trying to give up.
So I guess even the great Roberta Southie doesn't know everything.
Roberta got to her feet and glared at Georgia, her face a picture of rage. You know what, Georgia? Why don't you just shut up? This is all your fault, you know?
I don't know about that. Is it really?
Yes, it is. You know damn well it is. Can't you even take responsibility for your actions? But responsibility is such a boring word. You too. What? Do you have anything particularly insightful you would care to add to this conversation, Sam? Well, Samantha took a step backwards, her hands behind her back. She'd never seen Roberta look so angry before. The dependable, motherly image she had once had of Roberta was slowly beginning to fall away, piece by piece. I just thought it would be best if we didn't argue. We can assign blame later, but for the moment, that isn't going to get us anywhere. That's right, Bobby. It's all swings and roundabouts, you know? And what the hell does that mean? Instead of standing around here pointing fingers, we should be doing something productive.
Isn't that the mature adult thing to do? Now you look here, Lady Byron. How can you, of all people, stand there and give me that advice when this is your fault?